Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is optibotimus coming with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Titans Return Titan class Fortress Maximus with Emissary and Cerebros. Now, right up front, I want to tell you that this figure was released way ahead of schedule in Australia. The actual release date for this is not supposed to be until late July, early August, with pre-orders going up at Big Bad Toy Store on or around July 1st. But I have to send a very special thanks to Brad Mull as well as Alan Jones, who live in Australia and were able to pick this up for me. In addition to that, Brad is a patron of mine, and as I said, this released early, and because it was in Australia, it was extremely expensive, both in terms of the price and the shipping. And that extra cost was helped paid for by my patrons. So to my patrons, Brad and Alan, thank you very much for this. As you can see for the package, absolutely gorgeous artistic image right here of a Fortress Maximus with a whole battle scene behind him. You got some jets flying around. You got some smaller little Titan Master figures right there. You got Cybertron on the far corner. You got Transformers along the side with Generations. On the top here, you have some product shots. You have Emissary, Cerebros, Fortress Maximus, and then both his city mode as well as battle station. On the side here, you just have a really cool image of Fort Max's head. This side here, you actually have a bit of a read-up. And it says, Fortress Maximus is the ultimate weapon. In his alternate mode, he is a city, a headquarters the Autobots and their Titan Master partners can use as a base of operations. There is no theoretical limit to his size. His ability to connect with other bots and form a Cybertron city allows him to expand and add functions as needed. In battle, his sheer size makes him almost unstoppable. He is one of the few known Titans that remain in the universe, and he is the only known Titan who can unite with a Titan Master partner. Whoever controls him controls a weapon of unimaginable magnitude. And then you have it in a couple other languages. And then on the back you have some more product shots. You have a large image of a Fort Max there, obviously Cerebros and Emissary. And then a couple different looks for his various modes. Now, people are already complaining because that's not really how Fortress Maximus' city mode looked. But there is a fan mode of sorts, and I'll be showing you that on here. Then on the side here, you can see that Autobot Blaster, as well as the Power Master Optimus Prime that's coming out, can actually attach to it to form Cybertron City, which is just a very massive city mode. Couple of their little, I guess they're calling them Titan Masters, but they're basically Headmasters. And then some of the smaller vehicles. And then on the side you got Nightbeat, Hardhead, Sentinel Prime, and then Blaster. And then it was $369.95. That's Australian dollars, not US, but still pretty expensive. Now, package-wise, I mean, that's about it for it. It is roughly the same size as the Metroplex, if I remember correctly. And one of the complaints that people had about that, you actually had to assemble the figure, and you still have to do that with Fort Max. His arm is actually not attached to it, much like Metroplex was, and you have to connect it. But the biggest problem is once you connect it, you really can't detach it from his body, which means storing it back in the box is basically impossible. So that's a little bit unfortunate. And the other thing that I want to point out is, remember that he's actually holding a gun here on the artwork. That's something that I'm going to touch on here when we take a look at the figure. But for the packaging, that's about it for it. So without further ado, let's get this guy out here and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Fortress Maximus opened up out of his packaging and obviously in his city mode. Now like I said, there is some assembly that is required. You gotta attach the arm, but it literally just clips in. And out of package, he is in robot mode. Now, in addition to the arm, you do have to attach this little piece right here, and then you do have stickers. And one thing that I will say is that it's actually, because you can see it's very chromy, I don't know if that's an actual word, but very reflective here, and it actually makes the numbers a little bit difficult to read. One thing that I like is in the instructions, they actually have a layout for the actual sticker, so you can look here and see what needs to go where. For example, you got number 46, so you can come over here and you can find 46 right down here at the bottom, and then you can just go in here and you can find the corresponding sticker on the actual sticker sheet. So I do actually really appreciate that. And then for the instructions, you can see fairly big, and it's a lot of just kind of warnings and things because it's got batteries, or I shouldn't say it's got batteries, but it requires batteries. So you have to have all these warnings and things on there. I mean, transformation, it's very simple. I mean, getting into his battle station mode, you can see is like 11 steps. You do have the batteries and how to install them right there. It does take 3 AAA batteries. And then on the back here, you have more warnings and things like that down here, and then more of the instructions. And then obviously down here it shows you how to attach Power Master Optimus Prime or Autobot Blaster. But for the instructions, that's about it for it. And then he also does come with a collector card, which is actually really very nice. I mean, you got that real cool artwork right on the front of it. But one thing that they're doing differently with the new Titan Return figures is, well, Tux, is they're actually putting the tech specs back on them. And he's gonna keep on walking. There you go. So you can see that he's actually got a couple different tech specs because it's got Fort Max, Cerebros, and Emissary. And I'm really happy to see that they're actually bringing back these tech specs. I really dig that. I think that's very classic. And I mean, it actually gives a purpose to these cards. The other ones just had the Generation logo on the back. So I think it's really cool that they're actually doing that. Now, Tux is going to help me out. But for the city mode, this is basically... What are you doing, dude? Ow, he's biting me. This is the official configuration for it. A lot of people don't like it, and Tux already is knocking things off here. A lot of people don't really like the way that this looks because it doesn't have that classic kind of look to it. I don't think it looks all that bad, honestly. You can see you got these little attaching points. This is what will attach Power Master Optimus Prime or Blaster. But you got a lot of other cool things in here. Like you got a little ramp, very similar to the original G1. You got these little sections right here. You got a little bay thing in there. You got this little guy that can pop out, which is actually really cool. You can rotate this and everything. Here's Emissary or Spike, whatever you want to call him. We'll take a look at this guy a little bit. You can see that's one of the problems. The ball joint is very stiff on this, so when you're rotating it, it will pop out occasionally. But one thing that's cool is all of these new Titan Master figures can actually interact with this. There is a ton of little tiny posts. Like you got one here, you had one up here, you got one here, you got some on that side, you got some like right there. I mean, you can really put these in a whole bunch of different places. And I actually, well, that pops out. I really appreciate that because what it allows you to do is display these on the guy and not have to worry about them falling off. So that's perfectly stable right there, which is really very cool. Coming down here so that you can get a better look at that. And you can, Tux, are you going to smack something? No, he wants to play. So you got things like that right there. You come around here and you got another little one right there. So you can peg him right there if you want to. So a lot of real cool stuff. You have one all the way back here that you can put there if you want to. You can come around here to these little gun turret things and you can take one and you can put them right there, have them stand on top of a gun. Why you would want to have them standing on a gun, I don't really know. But a little tuxedo, mew 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 mew. Yeah, he's just gonna hang out. But you got a bunch of those all over this guy, and that's actually really cool. Like I said, it allows you to, you know, nicely secure these. You know, and then you even have some that are specifically designed when he's actually in his robot mode. So if you wanted to, I don't know why you would want to, you could put them like that, I guess. So a lot of functionality with this. And like I said, you got this little turret that can rotate. It's got a little seat. You can rotate this around. You can bring this in if you really want to. You don't have to have it deployed, but it just kind of rounds things out and looks a little bit better in my opinion. You come around here to this side, and you got this little turret. Again, I don't really know the main purpose of that. It's more or less like a little tank looking thing, or maybe they have this be like a helipad or something. And again, you got those little pegs right there that you can have, you know, sit right there. So again, interactivity, which is absolutely terrific. You got these cannons right here that can lift up and down. I don't have it pushed down all the way because you can actually remove these and use them as weapons in the Fort Max configuration as a robot. So in general, like I said, really simple, but kind of cool looking. Honestly, I mean, I don't really mind it all that much. Now, I did mention that there is a fan mode that you can kind of configure the legs to make it look a little bit more and like its classic G1 cell. So it's literally just kind of flipping things around. Let's see. I got to remember how to actually do it. So you rotate. Oh, no. Okay. So rotating these around like so. And you want to have this section on the inside here. So lifting this up. There we go. So you rotate that. And then you angle this up like so. You can take this, you can flop this up like that, kind of angling that. Bring this around. It does, you know, look a little bit better when you're manipulating it. So getting it like that, let's see, kind of angle that. Oh, maybe, actually, I'm going to rotate it where this heavier ratchet joint is facing up. It's a little bit easier to get it to be straight. So again, we're going to just rotate that around, then spin this around and angle this up, separate this, rotate this around. You will have to remove this piece to be able to get it looking, you know, appropriate. I guess you could say. How do you slide this out? There we go. It just slides in, but then you can use this kind of as like a tank or something. I don't know. We'll touch on this here in a little bit. So angle this up, rotate this. I'm going to get that out of the way. Bring this up like that. Spin this around, and just kind of flex all this stuff out. So if you wanted to, you can do something like this. It does require a little bit of finesse to get it to look appropriate, I guess. But once you do, let's see here. Let me playing with it for a little bit. I mean, you can get it looking like that. I mean, now these legs don't really lock into place. You're relying on the very heavy ratchet joints to get this look. But in general, it looks pretty good like this. And I think ultimately a lot of collectors are gonna wanna have him displayed looking like this. And here you have the new Fortress Maximus in the fan configuration for a city mode, obviously next to the way that it looks in the G1 form. And you can definitely see that in this configuration, it really does look a lot more the way that I think fans are really gonna want them to. Ultimately, I think it depends on your age. If you're a G1 fan such as myself, that's probably how you're gonna configure it. If you're a new fan of the franchise and you're a kid, you probably don't care. So the regular city mode would probably work perfectly fine. Now in this configuration, you do both have, in both figures, Cerebros attached to it. Now, in the old figure, here he is, it gets really stiff and stuck in there, so you have to pull it out. So there is this little data thing or whatever, you can have that there. For the new guy, he makes up the centerpiece, which that's a little bit hard to get out too, that goes right in the middle, and it kind of fills in that whole section, kind of replicating like what it does there. So you also do get this little kind of homage to the original toy with its kind of weird sort of look. But in this new configuration, he makes up more of the center column there. But it does look much better when you leave it in. It just slides in just like so. You push it down. You got two slots right here that you just kind of wedge that in. Oh, keep his legs straight. And then you just slot that down. And then you want to make sure that you have both of these arms on the sides of this middle piece here, because when you bring it down, you actually lock everything into place. And it makes the transformation sound. And it keeps it in Fortress Maximus mode when it comes to the audio, but we'll touch on that here in a little bit. And because somebody's going to want to see it, here he is next to Metroplex in his city mode. And honestly, I mean, Metroplex did a really good job of kind of homaging the original G1 toy. Now, Formax in this configuration kind of does the same thing, but you're seeing a huge difference. I mean, like, Metroplex is massive. You know, it really does sprawl out. Whereas Formax, when you have it like this, is a little bit more contained. Now, granted, the official, you know, configuration has the legs down and spread out a little bit more. But I mean, when you look at these two, you just can't help but notice all the stuff that is really different about them, and really does make Formax a great addition to your collection. Now, before we go to his robot mode, he actually does have one other mode, and that being his battle station. And to properly get there, you're going to need him in his, you know, original city mode, and that's basically what you have here. And to get him into his spaceship mode, literally all you do is you take the legs, you extend them forward like so, come around to this side, bring them forward just like so, and that's it. There you have him in his spaceship mode. And now, honestly, for me, I actually really like this. Mostly because in the original Japanese Headmaster series, Formax wasn't in city mode very often. More often than not, this is how he looked. So while the city mode, you know, officially doesn't really look all that great, I really think that they nailed this look for it. One thing I will say is there are actually wheels on the bottom, so you can actually roll this as well. But and for a comparison with his G1 self, yeah, as you can see, Both are absolutely massive, but you have a lot of similarities going on here. You got the little cannon right there, similar to that cannon, although much different in terms of size. You got the feet kind of dangling down there. You got the cannons on the top sections. You got the giant, tower kind of going on there in the middle, although the G1 is much bigger. And then you can see in the back, you got those ramps kind of hanging out, much like the original one did. So, like I said, I really think that this new one nailed it. City mode might be weak, but the battle station mode looks really very cool. Now to go to his robot mode, when you have it in this configuration, it is pretty simple to do. Now first what you need to do is take these, you're going to rotate these up, and these will lock down just like so. Do that on both sides and clip them down. And then, keep that down like so. Then we're going to stand them up. One thing people are asking about is the weight. As you can see, the ratchet joints are still pretty solid. If you're very careful, you can get it to balance, but it's really not all that spectacular. When you lift this up though, you're going to want to take these legs and extend them out just like so on both sides. That kind of creates that gap right there. Come around to this section, I guess you could have taken this out. We're going to take a look at him individually here in just a second. So setting him off to the side, you then take these bits, you rotate these up and lock these into position right inside there, and then you split this apart just like that, and then rotate this around and push that in, locking that along the side. Then you take these arms, rotate them down just like so. You spin them around right here at the elbow, and then you can lift this. Oh, what did I? Oh no, I went the wrong way. It goes like that. Kind of open up these hands just a little bit through that on this side as well. Just spin that down. You're going to rotate that around like so. Open up the hand just like that. Come around here to this back section. This whole section right up here will then just rotate back just like so and clip into place. Well, does it actually clip? No, it doesn't clip. It just rests down there. Take this top section, rotate that down like that, bring it around, and that's it. There you have him in his robot mode. Now, like I said, in general, very, very simple on how to transform him. And then real quickly for Cerebros, to get him into the head configuration, we're just going to bring these sections up like that, rotate these down like so. That's going to tab along the side. Do that there. Bring that there, and then you take this section right here, you get the transformation sound, and there you have his head. Then you want to take the emissary, bring him around, we're going to plug this in right there. Well, let's see, get that there, you get some transformation sounds. Rotate his head. I'm going to take a closer look here in just a second, but just bring that in. And there you have his head. But let's take a look at him closer and in much better detail. And as you can see, Hasbro did a terrific job with this guy. They absolutely nailed the look that first Cerebros here in his Fortress Maximus head mode. I mean, instantly bringing in the G1 version for comparison, you can see that size-wise, it's really not that much different. I mean, they're roughly the exact same size. The new guy might be a little bit wider. He's a smidge taller, especially with these little crest pieces here, but in general, I'm very impressed with it. I like how they kind of recreated some of those similar elements. I mean, you can see that he's got kind of like this square shape around his mouth, much like the original one did. He's got the red eyes. Obviously, these ones light up and these ones don't. You got that same kind of forehead crest thing. Obviously, there's a lot more extra detail that's kind of put in here, and obviously more sticker detail, but I mean, I'm really very, very impressed with it. This guy looks just basically like he did, but much more updated, and I love it. Now, obviously, this is Cerebros. Here we have Emissary, who, in the G1 version, this was Spike. What's funny, though, is this never existed in the Japanese series. Cerebros, or just Fortress in the Japanese series, never had a separate head that made up Cerebros, which was always kind of strange. But there you have Spike, and here we have Emissary, and the transformation is the exact same, except one extra step is you have to rotate his head around. But you can see this is a much smaller scale here, but color-wise it's about the same. Coming in to get a little bit closer of a look at that, I mean, real nice detail on both of these figures, honestly, but I do think that Emissary here scales a little bit better, especially when you're talking about him making up the head of Cerebros. You know, Spike here was always a fairly large head, and it kind of looks strange, but a very similar amount of detail. You come around here to the back, obviously you have a much more US kind of look here for Emissary, whereas the Japanese one has a little bit more in terms of facial structures and things like that, which, you know, was accurate to how it was in the Japanese series. You know, Cerebros didn't have this mouth or anything like that. So in terms of a Japanese release, I would anticipate that Takara will probably change that to more resemble that. But who knows, time will tell. But overall, fairly nice on here. Like I said, you got some nice silver paint on the actual face. The head, as I showed you, does rotate. It is part of the transformation, and I'll show that here because these little crests here on the back do stick out a little bit. And there is a specific way that you peg that into Cerebros' body. For the arms, though, you can move these out. It does feel like they're on ball joints, so you do get a little bit of a pivot in them. Not much. I mean, that's about as far as they're going to go, but it's a lot more than the G1 toy did. And then, much like the G1 toy, the only articulation is here at the hip. They move forward and back, and then they bend at the knee, but the legs are locked together, much like those original G1 toys. Well, even more so because these middle legs don't flex. At least these are the lower portion of the legs. At least these could rotate. These ones cannot. So very similar to the articulation in the original, but scale-wise I think it works a little bit nicer. Now, like you could see, transformation is the exact same. Literally all you do is you flip this down just like so. You don't have a little visor or anything to come over and cover up that face. That face is always exposed there. But like I was saying, on the inside here, coming in, I want to take a look a little bit closer. You can see how there's, on the bottom section here, these little sections that do come out more. And that's because it is designed for it to be rotated like this and have those wider sections on the back of Emissary's head fit into the wider section. Oh, you can see into the wider section right there. So you just bring that in and then you plug that in just like so. And you could hear him talking and everything, and that's just part of the whole gimmick. All the sounds are in this section right here, but all in all, really very cool looking. Now, bringing my camera up a little so that you can see the transformation on this guy. Really very simple. First, what you want to do is come around here to the sides. You're going to, well, take these, fold these back along the side like so, then take this section, rotate these down, do that on this side as well. Very similar transformation to the G1 toy, which is very cool. Rotate these bits down, rotate that down, just like so. Swivel these out. There's actually a little tab right here and a slot on the inside here that you bring this around and lock that into place. Do that there. Now, when you have this section here down, Cerebros is in Fort Max mode. And all the sounds that Cerebros produces are based on him being combined with Fort Max. Oh, and then I should show you that you rotate these at the actual elbow. That's one misstep, I guess. So when you take it and you rotate this up, you get this sound, which is a nice transformation sound, and then it changes the settings in here, so now he's in Cerebros mode. And when you push down his head, you get a couple different sounds, which kind of sounds like torpedoes launching from the USS Enterprise. Same thing there, and you can see that you get a little light flashing right there. Do it again. He says his name. And some more shooting. Another shooting sound, and then it just kind of repeats mostly. So like I said, depending on how, and I just noticed that I stuck that on there crooked, and that's going to drive me nuts. So depending on how you have this, it actually affects the sounds on them. And I'll show you more of the Fort Max sounds when we take a closer look at actually Fort Max. But here you have Cerebros, and this guy really does look great. Comparison-wise, here you have him next to the G1 version, which, you know, color-wise, the new one looks a little bit better. The darker color kind of fits a little bit nicer and is a little bit more screen accurate. But obviously, one thing that you miss out on is the whole, you know, headmaster gimmick. Unfortunately, the new guys do not have that. Well, at least for Max. I'm not 100% sure about the other ones. We'll take a look at those in due time. But this guy really does look really cool. I mean, he's got a backpack, but I mean, the G1 version had a backpack, so it is what it is. For his articulation, the head actually can rotate. It kind of looks up and down a little, depending on if you separate it from the actual peg in there. So I would just be careful and and it's cool that you can actually rotate a headmaster. You got the shoulders that do rotate, and then you got a little hinge right here that allows you to move it in and out. You can see that the elbow is on a ball joint, so you can rotate that and get that in a few different poses. Unfortunately, nothing here at the wrist. Obviously, nothing at the waist, as this is all locked in the actual position. The hips move forward, they move back. They do kind of get a little bit limited right here. You don't get it moving all the way up, but that's a pretty decent range of motion. You got hinges that will move in and out, and then obviously as part of the transformation, that hinges. And then you got a nice bend here at the knee. Oh, you also have a swivel at the upper part of the thigh. The feet, I guess you could say, flex. I don't really know why you would do anything with those as kind of like articulation points. There's no ankle pivot or anything like that. So articulation-wise, he's pretty decent. Roughly about, I'd say a little bit bigger than a deluxe size figure, to be totally honest. Bringing in Sunstreaker here, I mean, you can see that he's much bigger. So he's probably more Voyager size. But as a standalone figure, this guy is really very nice, and I think turned out absolutely terrific looking. Now, to go back to his actual head mode, you're going to take these arms, rotate these around, and then rotate at the elbow, so this is kind of facing forward. Do it on this side as well. Rotate that around, put it just like so. Take these sections, fold that down, angle this up, lock that on the side. You got another little tab that slots in here, so just bring that in, bring that up just like that. Rotate these pieces out like so, and then again you switch this back to actual Fort Max mode. When you rotate this up, you get the transformation sound, and boom, there it is. And now let's see how he looks on his actual body. And then again, you want to make sure that you have this lifted up, and you can see that the eyes light up and everything, and you get the transformation sound. And then all you do, you got the emissary figure down here. You got a slot section right up there. All you do is take that, push that down, and give that a nice lock in there, and you hear a slight kind of clanking sound, I guess. And there you have Fortress Maximus fully assembled and in his robot mode. And we have a visitor who we usually don't get. Here we have Gracie. Hi, baby. It's a great baby. Oh, she's happy. She's going to hang out here with us. Tux is walking around on the floor, so we may see him. But Fort Max here absolutely is impressive. Now, there's Tux. As you can see, there are some similarities between this and, of course, Metroplex. He is an extensive retool and remold of that figure, but almost when you put them side by side, you almost don't notice that they're the same. And for comparison, here he is next to Metroplex. Now the legs are fairly similar. The feet have been redone, obviously. We'll come down and take a look at that. But looking at the torso, you can see just how different they really are. But as I said, there are some similarities. The forearms here and the elbows are basically the same. The hands are the same. And then from like here up is obviously different. One thing that I will say is that a lot of the parts that are on him have been reconstituted in different ways. So like for example, lifting this guy's arm up, one thing that's cool is that those ramps right there are actually the front of Metroplex's shins. But it still actually works really well. They also reused the actual waist piece. So while this is the front of Metroplex's crotch, it's actually, well, the butt of Fort Max, as you can see. They're exactly the same. So conversely, the butt here of Metroplex is the crotch piece for Fort Max. So again, utilized in similar fashions, but done differently enough that you don't really notice it. Now he also does still have, that arm swivel thing here that Metroplex had, to help get his city mode. There's no real purpose that I can find or anybody's been able to find to having Fort Max be able to do that, but it is a function that's still there, I guess. You can probably put together your own configuration for how you want him to look. You can see that the upper thighs are different, whereas this guy has wheels and everything. Fort Max does not have that on there. Now, like I said, Fort Max does have wheels, but not there on his thighs. So you can see the thighs are different. The knee section here is the same. You can slide it and everything. And then, like I said, with the feet, you do have some similarities with them, but those have been slightly repurposed as well. This top section here is basically the exact same. You can see it's got the little gun turrets down there, much like that did. But the lower section here is a little bit different, and then the outer section has also been kind of redone. Obviously, you got the giant cannons here on his shins, whereas you have those kind of knee plates. So, like I said, you know, a different looking figure by flipping around some of the parts and changing some things around. But I think that it came out really very nice, and honestly, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people had for Metroplex was the fact that he seemed a little bit anemic in his body. The much more filled out torso here on Fort Max really does look great. The other thing that's different is all the electronics and things like that are housed in the actual body of Metroplex there. And you still get the lights and sounds and things like that, but Fort Max's here is all contained inside of Cerebros. And to activate those, taking this guy out, one thing that I should kind of bring my camera up here and show this to you. You have these little panels here along the side that will slide up. When you push this button right there, you push that up and these little pieces come up, and that's what actually touches on the sides here. So when you have that locked in, again, you get that connecting kind of sound, and then you have the button right here that you push, and I'm just moving my camera all the way around, which lift those little levers up. There we go. He shoots. Bunch of guns. Again. Oh. Oops. I keep hitting the wrong thing. Well, he says Fort Max. There you go. So you do get all those sounds and everything, which do still really come across very nicely. Now the Japanese one is apparently going to have the headmaster theme, which I think is really very cool, and I know some people are really looking forward to that one. The color is a little bit different, and it has a little bit more of that G1 color, so setting him there. Here he is next to his G1 counterpart. Now, like I said, the Takara one is going to be a little bit different. And some of the colors actually look a lot better on that Takara one than here on Hasbro. One thing that you're noticing is that you got blue kind of consistent across his torso. Whereas on the actual G1 figure, you just got blue here in the center, and then you got kind of the gray on the outer pieces. That's something that will be done on the Takara one. You come down here, you look at his actual shins, you just got the red gun right there, and then it's surrounded by gray. Whereas this, the guns, as well as the surrounding pieces, are all red. That's something that's going to be different as well on the actual Takara one. Now, one thing that I don't particularly like about the Takara one is that the chest piece right there is a pretty, well, bluish color. As you can see, the Hasbro one here, I think does a better job of replicating the color to the original one. I mean, that one's a little bit darker, but I think that looks a little bit better. And I don't like the idea of the Takara one being released, having that, you know, clear luminescent blue plastic. It just, I don't think it looks very good. But I really like the way that this guy still turned out. I just think that Takara one takes it a little bit further to match the actual look, just a little more than the Hasbro one. Now, one thing that does actually suck is he doesn't come with really anything in terms of accessories. You got all these gun sounds that both he and Cerebros can do, and he doesn't come with any guns. One thing that is interesting, though, is if you remove these, like I said, they're just frictioned on here. I'm going to get in the way of the camera here. But if you pull these out, just like that, and hopefully, well, you couldn't see it, but if you pull these out, these actually have handles down here in the bottom. So you can actually take these and wedge them inside his hands here, get him to kind of friction in, and you can actually have him holding a gun. So it's personal preference. I mean, you can have it holding a gun, or you can have it, you know, be part of his thigh. I mean, it's whatever you really want. I think that the general look is pretty cool. But, you know, I mean, I never really cared, honestly, that much if Fort Max had guns or not, because he's giant and he's massive. The one thing that I am curious to find out, and we haven't gotten any confirmation on it whatsoever, is if the Japanese one will come with a Master Sword. Honestly, I'd be very surprised if it didn't, And that could really actually seal the deal for me on whether or not I want to pick that one up. Because in the Japanese series, in order for Fortress to actually combine with this transector, that's what this all was. His whole body was a transector, and the actual Fortress character was just what the US dubbed Cerebros. But that's how he actually got the power to combine with this guy. It was that Master Sword. So I'd be very surprised if the Takara one didn't come with it. Now, first articulation, if you're familiar with Metroplex already, the articulation is almost exactly the same. The head can actually rotate. Hopefully you guys are going to be able to see it. You can actually rotate it left and right, just like so. So you get a decent range of motion with it. It doesn't really look up and down or anything, but at least you can tilt it, you know, to have them looking forward or something. The shoulders here can move in and out. I really like how as you raise them, you got this section right here that exposes itself to kind of fill in things right there. So you do have that. He does also fully rotate. These pieces here kind of flop around. It's not bad. And I like how you can actually, you know, lift the arm and have that kind of move along with it. He does rotate at the upper part of the elbow here. He does also have a really deep bend at the actual elbow. These pieces right here can still open. I mean, it's not easy to get to them. I don't think they're supposed to. But that functionality is still there. So people have complained because they didn't put the little forearm guns in there. I totally think that they could have done it. I mean, it just hinges on there, so they could have put the gun in there. I don't know why they didn't, but you do have that on just one of the arms. The other arm doesn't have that. Then you have individual finger articulation. You can rotate here at the actual wrist itself. The thumb can flex up and down like so, and then these fingers all are individually articulated at this group of knuckles right there. He does rotate at the waist. Get this kind of out of the way. So you can rotate them around very nicely. You can hear very heavy ratchet joints. The hips here move forward, they move back very nicely. They swing in and out. They rotate here at the midpoint of the thigh, and then the knees bend very nicely. So lots of articulation in this guy. The big size of him really doesn't limit anything. In terms of the posability, is a little bit limited because of just how big he actually is, and you are going to be a little limited in the kind of poses that you're going to want to put him in. But I mean, honestly, just standing him there, he still looks really darn cool, I think. I really am digging the way that this guy absolutely turned out. Now, to transform him back, first we're going to obviously detach the Cerebros from the top of him. You just set that off to the side for right now. We're going to go into his actual city mode. So first you take these arms, we're going to rotate these around just like that. You can take the forearms, rotate those around, tuck the hand down and in just like so. So again, take the hand, we're going to rotate that around, bring the hand down like that. And then we're gonna we're going to want it under like so. So we're gonna tuck it up like that, bring them around, bring it up like that, then take this, collapse these in on both sides, bring this back section up and around. You can swivel it right there. It'll bring this entire section kind of where it needs to be, and then you just put them down on his back. Here you can kind of take these pieces out, rotate these around like so. Do that on the opposite side as well. You could have did it when he was standing, it doesn't really matter. Bring these two halves together, fold these sections down just like that. Then we're going to take Cerebros. You can leave Emissary in if you want, you don't have to, but I'm going to take them out. Rotate these legs down along the side. Do that on this side as well. These little pieces, instead of going back like they were, you're going to put them forward just like that. Bring this section up like so. You're going to get the transformation sound. And then spinning this around like so. You take this and you just slide them down right inside the little cavity. Bringing it all the way in. Lining all that stuff up so you can slide it in. Kind of gets a little bit tricky if the legs aren't straight. So you just bring that down. And again, keep the hands on the outer sides right here, so just collapse that all the way down like so, and there you go. And now you have them in Fort Max the actual configuration, bring him around like that. Then you take these legs, extend them out like that. Do that on both sides. Now, obviously, if you left it like that, you would bring these feet down, and then you would create his battle station mode. But like I said, we're going just to a city mode. So rotate that around like that. You can then bring this around. And again, this is the official configuration for how his city mode is supposed to be. Then you can take Emissary, rotate his legs down, spin his head around just like so, and you can set him right there, have him hang out nicely, get that to stay in there. This can actually detach, which is kind of unfortunate, but it just pegs in there, so it's not that bad. But getting that right there, just like so, there you have Fort Max back in his city mode. Actually, I was mistaken. You should take these and rotate these down, but they don't stay down, like I was saying, all that well. You really have to push them in there to get them to kind of lock into place. And obviously, you don't want to leave, you know, it there with the cannon there or anything. So take that, bring that down, give that a nice little push to kind of lock that in there, something like that. Then you can take this section, this little piece will lift up, rotates that around, spin that around like that. Then you got the little section right here. You can open this up. Now if you have Power Master Optimus or Blaster, you can actually take these, lift these up. That's what's going to attach to those guys, but you can just leave them down in this configuration. But there you have them. I mean, I'm really happy. I really am. There are some flaws with it. I mean, I guess I could fidget with this a little bit more, keep that down. I mean, it definitely has some issues. Is it a perfect figure? Absolutely not. Does it utilize a lot of the same parts that Metroplex used? Yes, it does. But even at that, this actually really does look so different, in my opinion, that having them both stand next to each other really doesn't bother me whatsoever. The changes that were made on this really do make for a very cool figure. And without question, I would absolutely recommend picking this up. But obviously at the retail price. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So, if you are interested in picking this guy up, he should be available for pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store on or around July 1st. It should be available around late July, early August. So keep tabs on it by clicking the link down in the video description. You'll go to BBTS where, as soon as the pre-order for this guy launches, you'll be able to lock him in and add him to your collection. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been optibotimus. Don't forget that if you like this video, to please like and share it. Also be sure to subscribe in case you haven't already subscribed. That way you never miss a future review of mine. And as always, until next time, I'll talk to you later. Headmaster